Welcome back. In our last session, we talked about the importance of building a family ID. And then we talked about the top priorities in life, putting God first, then your spouse, then your children, and that God would build this life's message out of your life. And then your business or ministry would have a great impact on people's lives. Today, we're going to talk about how to build your family ID. Now, an essential element to developing this healthy family identity is understanding the difference between an interdependent family and an independent family. An interdependent family has a strong family ID. They're all connected by relationship, and they're looking inside the family to get their needs met. For instance, as a father, I have a need for someone to tell me that I'm wonderful, that I'm honored and respected. I even need some recognition. If I don't get that need met inside my family, I'm going to look outside my family, normally to my job or to my vocation. I believe that we can get that need met inside our family. Let's say that mom has this huge need for someone to tell her that she's not just a maid. Or let's take our daughter. She has a huge need for her older siblings to tell her how much she's valued. If she doesn't get that need met inside the family, she's going to look outside the family. As she looks out, the rest of the family ends up missing out on her input. And if we're not careful, we go from being an interdependent family to being an independent family. Before long, if we're not careful, we all begin looking outside the family to get our needs met. Now, from a distance, we still look like a connected family, but really we're all looking outside that family. We are a family with no family ID, nothing to really connect them. This is an independent family. You know, building family interdependence is so important. You know, when I was growing up, I remember my parents taking us on a family vacation, and we all of us kids wanted to invite a friend to go with us. Man, something's wrong when you want to take a friend with you on a family vacation. But it's because we wanted at least somebody on that trip that liked us, right? You know, it's amazing. Here we live in a culture that it is so acceptable for us to treat each other in our family, especially siblings, to really hurt each other's feelings. That's just considered acceptable. But you know what? We can make a change. We can turn this whole thing around inside of our family. We can truly build family interdependence. And you know how we're going to do it? We will treat each other better than our best friend. Now, is that even possible? Even if your family has been characterized in the past by not having that, by not really treating each other better than your best friend, you bet you can. But you've got to do it with intentionality.
Can this really work in our blended household?
I mean, our kids are just getting used to being a family. Can we really expect them to treat each other better than their best friend?
I say absolutely. By you setting the standard or setting the tone in your family for how we're going to treat each other is a key for you developing this awesome family identity. You know, by you being the head of this new family, it is absolutely okay for you to set the tone and this expectation that we're going to treat each other better than our best friend. You know what? You'll be creating an oasis. You'll be creating a refuge where your kids can't wait to get back to this family because they know in this family it's safe and we really can have harmony and peace, what we've always dreamed about. So we're going to treat each other better than our best friend. You know, it's amazing that the first murder in Scripture was between two guys who really didn't know each other, who came from totally different cultures. No, the first murder in Scripture was between Cain and Abel. In Genesis chapter 4, it tells the story of how Cain got so jealous that he killed his brother. And God came down and said, "Cain, where's your brother?" He said, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Absolutely, you're your brother's keeper. Well, who's going to be? You know, when I was growing up, I noticed that in our family, there's just something special between an older brother and a younger brother. There's something powerful there. Let me show you a picture of us when we were kids, when we were growing up. You know, it's amazing how God built the traits of a firstborn. It's true. Firstborns have this incredible desire to be loyal to their parents or to be loyal. The firstborn has this kind of mantle of leadership, and they really don't have a huge desire or need to be accepted by their siblings. They say the first 19 out of the 21st astronauts were all firstborn. Isn't that amazing? It's true that even secondborns, they have some special traits that God built into them. For the most part, they have a huge need to be accepted by their older siblings. And that to me, as I was growing up, my little brother Philip, I in fact had a sister that was older, Robin, and I remember one time she said to me, "Greg, that shirt you're wearing sure looks sharp on you." And immediately that shirt became my favorite shirt. Man, she had this incredible influence over my life. And my little brother Philip, he needed me to accept him so bad. It bordered on an obsession. He was always trying to compete with me, trying to race. He'd say, "Hey, see if we can get to that tree. Who can get to that tree the fastest?" And I was bigger, I was stronger, I could always beat him. I guess he thought that if he could just beat me at something, I would accept him, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't accept him for love or money. I mean, I told him to get out of my room, stay away from my stuff. He was always begging to go with me and my friends, and I wouldn't accept him. It's so sad. Probably the saddest chapter of my life is me looking back and see the way I treated my two younger brothers. It was horrible. I drove them out of our family to get their needs met. The biggest threat to having this interdependent family is this sibling rivalry or sibling bickering. I truly drove my brother away from our family. And you know what? Where family identity is strong, peer pressure is weak. Where family identity is weak, peer pressure is strong. You know what? I drove my little brother Philip outside of our family, and to get accepted by his friends at school, to get accepted by this other team, because you have this incredible need to be accepted. You know what he had to do? He had to stand back and just kind of observe the different groups at school and determine which group might accept me. Would it be the athletes? Would it be the thugs? Would it be the nerds? And so when he finally figured out what group might accept him, he then said, "I'm going to have to love what they love. I'm going to have to hate what they hate, but just hate it a little bit more." It's amazing how I was almost single-handedly was party to pushing him to his friends to get accepted by them. And so peer pressure became absolutely insurmountable for him. I mean, he couldn't overcome it. I'm so sad about what's happened to my brother since then. He's now serving a 20-year sentence. No, I'm sorry, I'm kidding. He's not. He actually turned out pretty good. I didn't mean to do that to you. But anyway, today, you know what? I went back to my siblings when I got older, and I realized how I had hurt them and how I had hurt their feelings and literally shoved them outside of our family. I remember going to them and saying, "Hey, I want to ask you to please forgive me for these things that I did that hurt you, that wounded you." And some of them, they said, "Greg, I don't even remember that." And I said, "Well, it would just bless me if you would just say, 'I forgive you.'" And when I asked and he forgave me, my sister, my brothers, you know what? It changed our relationship. Just me going back and asking them to forgive me for the way I'd treated them growing up. It was amazing, the healing that's happened now in our family. Today, my siblings are my best friends. We really do love each other. I wish you could meet them. They're absolutely the most awesome people in the world. I really believe that God is calling us to a whole new level in our families. He is calling us to take it to this new level of healing and health inside of our family, where we truly treat each other better than our best friend. I think that siblings everywhere are under this incredible pile that we've just kind of fallen into what this culture says is acceptable. The way to do it in our culture is to allow our children to be mean to each other. But it doesn't have to be that way. I'm going to ask you to elevate unkindness to siblings to absolutely unacceptable behavior. My parents, when I was growing up, they corrected us for being mean to each other. They said, "Leave him alone, quit saying that, just ignore him, don't do that anymore." But guys, they just never elevated it to absolutely unacceptable. This doesn't happen here. Hey, what would you do? What would the punishment be if you had a child who tried to burn the house down on the third attempt, they were sloshing gasoline around in the living room and they were trying to strike the match, man, you can't think of anything so horrible, the punishment that would go for that. I'm going to ask you to make that be the punishment for for treating each other without being kind. That I'm just telling you, we've got to take this thing to this new level of commitment to each other, to kindness, to love. That our home is a place of refuge from the world, and then a springboard into the world. You know, I feel like, so someone said, Greg, so really, what is the punishment for being unkind to each other? Well, here's what I would say. I would say, look, we're going to stop everything. We're not going to eat. I'm not going to go to work. If you are continually characterized by hurting your siblings, if you're continually being unkind to them, look, there's nothing that will destroy your home faster. A fire can't destroy your home any faster than us allowing unkindness between husband and wife and between siblings. That's the God. I believe that if we'll move this thing up, if we'll ratchet this thing up, we can change the culture of our family. We can change the way we relate to the world. I believe God is calling you and I to this new level. And I'm going to ask you to pray that God will heal your family. Even though you may have been characterized in the past by being unkind to each other, you're going to pass this new law. It's a new constitutional amendment. We're going to treat each other better than our best friend. We are not going to allow unkindness in this house. And we really can change this culture.
You're asking us to change some pretty old ways of relating. I mean, we'd love to see our kids relate to us this way, but how do we make the transition?
You know, it may be really slow going at first. I know when old patterns are set in place, it's really hard. I know it was very hard for us. I can remember distinctly trying to change those in our family.
You know, I know that we as parents had to make the decision. You know, we are the one who are going to set this standard in our home. We had to make it absolutely unacceptable behavior to be unkind to each other in our home. The punishment for that was that you can't really have relationships with your friends until you can show that you're going to be in relationship with your best friend. I believe we live in a culture that has really, over the last 2 generations, raised unmarriageable children. Children who are really unkind to each other, who don't resolve conflict. They don't ask each other's forgiveness. They live in just a constant state of hurt and conflict. And I really believe that this is the key for you changing the direction of your family, literally for generations to come. You know, we do live in a culture that has made it actually acceptable for us to be mean to each other in our family. You know, I remember growing up how I would hurt my siblings' feelings, and then I would go to church and we would hear a sermon on love or forgiveness, and I had actually no conviction. Then I'd go home and we'd have Sunday lunch, and I'd sit right across the table with a sibling who's broken and hurting, and our relationship was out of whack, and I had really no conviction. Then we'd go to the same bedroom, and I had no conviction, and then I got comfortable with this broken relationship and no reconciliation. So when I got married, I was comfortable with it. We have literally raised a generation that is unmarriageable. And I believe God is going to change that for us and for our future generations. You know, in our last session, we talked about priorities. Then when we started this session with a whole new way of living, which is we're going to treat each other better than our best friend. Now we're going to talk about our core family values. Guys, this will be the foundation by which we build our family mission statement and our family vision statement. I'm so excited about you now being able to put in writing your core values. You know, some of you might be saying, Craig, what are you talking about? I don't have a list of core values. Yes, you do. They're in you. They're what makes you you. You have these values. I just want to help draw them out of you so you can put them in writing and get them on paper. This will help you lay the foundation for this powerful family ID. You know, God has directed you and has built into you these core values. These are your deepest passions. These are the things that keep you up at night. These are the things that you'd be willing to die for. These things will guide your personal priorities. These are the things, we call these your core values. So you might be thinking, well, I really don't have it. Well, you do. It may help you to ask yourself these questions, okay? The first one, what stirs righteous anger inside of you? What makes you especially happy? What are your most deeply held beliefs? What are you most passionate about? What character traits would you like for your children to have when they grow up? And then, what would you like a guest to feel when they walk into your home? I'm going to ask you to turn to session 2 in your participant guide. I want you to find the list of core values. And then there's a place for you to list values that aren't in that list. So add your core values to that. Then I want you to go through and circle the ones that are most important to you. Then compare your list with your spouse's list. What do you guys have core values that are similar? Which ones do you have that are different? Explain to each other why you put those down. Tell a story about your past that would explain why you have that as a core value. And then I want you to guys compare. What are the biggies? Which ones mean the most to both of you? The ones that are most important. List those out.
As a single parent, how can I instill my values in my son when he spends a portion of his time away from my home with his mom?
For single parents and parents of blended families, you're going to need to be a lot like the coach who doesn't spend all of his time with the kids, really maybe just an hour or an hour and a half each day. But for 24, 23 of those hours, they're going to be spent with someone else. Yet they still adopt the vision of the team, the disciplines of the team. And so that same thing will happen with you. Just by you holding up your values to them and letting them see that this vision that you've cast really will capture their heart and their imagination. And if you can get with the other parent and share that with them the values you're trying to instill in the children, is another powerful way for you to get their buy-in. But if that's not possible, just know that by you laying this foundation, by you putting up and holding up this standard in front of your children and casting this powerful vision, it really will capture their heart, it will capture their imagination, and they will do it. Hey, if you're a single parent, I want to ask you to get some help. I want you to maybe ask a friend or maybe your parents, a mentor that would help you identify what your core values are. Don't forget to ask your kids. Ask them the 5 questions. And then I want you to show them the list of the core values there in your book. And then add to that. You know, once you do this, you're going to come up with, say, 8 to 10 core values that really represent you as a family. You know, once you do this, you're going to be on your way. That's because your core values lay the foundation for what will eventually become your family identity.